report and you stay on your medication. Because mental health issues are treatable. Most mental health issues, like diabetes, with proper medication, can balance a person and it's treatable. Part of the struggle is getting someone convinced to take their medication if they're taking their medication. And that can be done through the triage center concept. So, I want to ramble on to I'm excited about this thing. I really feel this is going to have an impact in our community. I think it's going to make it safer. I think we're going to have, I think we're going to see the hospitals pony up some money. I think we're going to see, I know the county's going to pony up some money. They already are. They already pay for the detox. They already pay my staff for the sobering center. They already pay for so much stuff already. Health and human services and all the things that they do. Safe home, all those opportunities. So I'm just excited. And guess what? The city can be a partner. And they can get out their checkbook as far as I'm concerned. I've always thought funding is a little goofy between the county and the city, and I've been pretty vocal about that. They asked me about the different taxes, liquor tax, Jeff, and I kind of have this philosophy that I think we're taxed enough, quite frankly. I just think that distribution of taxes is out of whack a little bit. I think the county is underfunded for all the essential services we provide. They probably heard that here on the court. So it's all a county responsibility. So in a growing city like Sioux Falls, the burden becomes primarily on the county. So that's my little funding tax thing. So
thank you.
And I don't want to go on too long because I know that you'll have some questions, but I really want to bring the chief deputy up. I got to tell you, Michelle's so caring and compassionate. I'm going to mention something before she comes up. We don't talk together very often in public like that. We don't present very often, so we're not scripted. So I don't get a chance to thank her for what she does, but thank you for what you do. She had a brain to be out there. But one of the things that I noticed about Michelle is she's in drug court. She's going to talk to you about it. I'll come by her office sometimes and she'll be teared up. And I know what it is. It's a drug court client that she's been working with that just failed. That's how caring and compassionate it is. She does that every week. She works with these people. Every week she tries to get them help. She tries to make them succeed. But it's tough out there. It's damn tough out there. And the odds are against them when they're addicted to these things like meth and heroin. I'm sorry, but it's that's why I'm excited about the triage center. I want to see if we can improve things. The city of Cincinnati, I think, I talked to somebody there a couple of weeks ago. They were at 141 drug overdose deaths, and they just went to 542 in a year. And last year in America, we lost 64,000 Americans to drug overdose. 64,000. And it's not fair. And that stuff is so addictive that we need to be able to find a way to intercept that and to stop that and those and get them the help they need, because it is literally knocking on death's door. So Michelle.
Thank you. One thing the sheriff should know before I start speaking is to say some of those things, because it really does get to me. So I'm going to try to get through this. I started 25 years ago, April Fool's Day, in the jail, and the types of crimes and the types of inmates that we're seeing today versus when I started has dramatically changed. And one of the things that we're seeing is the rise in drug usage and the crimes and the high risk that these drugs are bringing to our community. As the sheriff said, we're doing a lot of things here, a lot of good things in Sioux Falls, and I think we can all be very proud of where we live and how safe our community is. But it is threatening us here, and it's threatening our community, it's threatening our kids, our schools. We are seeing so much effect of those drugs. And so we just want to talk to you just a little bit today about what we're trying to do to make that better, but we certainly need the help of all of you here in the room. Some people will say drugs are low risk to our community. We're here to tell you it's very high risk to our community. We're seeing problems with family and health and children and kids being born addicted to these drugs, our community, in your workplace, and then not to mention the crimes and guns and violence that we're seeing. There's about at least a half of the serious crimes we see, there's a drug nexus combined with that. Here in our community, in 2016, we saw 11 overdose deaths, and in 2017, that rose to 21 overdoses. That's 7 meth overdoses, 7 heroin, and 7 opioids. And the average age is 43, with the majority of those being male victims. The sheriff spoke a little bit about heroin coming into our community, and not only is heroin coming into our community, but it's also being laced with fentanyl. And any of you that are familiar with that understand what risk that poses to the people that are taking them and who maybe don't understand the risk of these combined drugs and the lethal dosage that they might be taking. We're seeing problems with that, not only in our community, but also in our jail. No matter what we try to do to prevent those drugs from coming in, we just recently purchased a new x-ray machine to try to stop some of that, but just the smallest dose, half of the size of your fingernail, if that gets in, can be a lethal dose. And we've seen that inside of the walls of the jail as well, so we struggle there. Not only do we struggle with that, but because it is in such demand and such readily available, and we're not seeing apps as we did a few years ago because it's so readily available and easy to get and cheap. Those of you, I hear there's ones in our schools with our kids and the amount of money that you can make on marijuana sales. We see drug rips because of these marijuana sales. We see kids with large bundles of cash readily available to them because that market is out there. We have kids carrying guns to protect themselves from the drug rips of the people that want to buy the drugs, but also want to steal money that they know they have been participating in since January of 2011 is the drug court here in our community. We have seen 164 participants on the drug court. In order to get into drug court, you have to be facing a South Dakota penitentiary time. So that drug offender, that you've seen plenty over your lifetime in drug use and crimes. And so in penitentiary, or to try to turn yourself around, you can become a participant on our drug court. And I'm pretty passionate about that because one of the things I've learned is the chance that some of these people have at a life like yours and mine was taken away when they were small children. They were exposed to these drugs by their friends, family, other people in those. And I'm coming into our drug court, and the majority of them, when they start as preteens or teens, their drugs that they started with are marijuana and alcohol. You don't see people starting with these heavy drugs that we're talking about. So people that say marijuana in our community isn't a big deal, I don't think really have any idea what that is doing to our children. Currently, we have had 62 graduates of our drug court program. However, it's not an easy program because some of the people that either fail out of our program or choose to quit go to the penitentiary, and they actually get out before they would have successfully completed our program, because it's many months of taking UAs and passing drug patch tests and getting a job and successfully trying to get your children back if you're ready for that, and having to go to meetings and court. We meet every Thursday for about 6 hours in order to program for court and to hold court for these people to try to get them off of the drugs and to try to help them be better parents and community members. On that team is judges and law enforcement. We have prosecutors, defense attorneys, probation officers, treatment, counseling. So we have quite a number of people working for all these participants to help make them a better person and better person in society. And I often think to myself, when you have all of those people at the table trying to help you to better yourself, if you can't do it in that type of situation, which a number of them do fail and don't make it, how would you ever do that without those resources and that help being provided to you? Whether you want to do it or you don't, or whether you think you can or you can't, I don't know how they would do that, because at times it's difficult for us to find them housing, it's difficult for us to find them a job, it's difficult for us to keep them positive and not getting depressed again, and all of the trauma and things that happened to them in their lives early on coming back. And so we see them, you know, trying to trick the system, trying to go to some of the smoke shops in town and buy kratom or various new drugs that might be on the market to try to get around the UA testing. And so it's a constant battle to keep one step ahead of this, but these are some of the things that we're doing in the community to try to make it better. Like the sheriff talks about the triage center. It's going to take a whole lot of us and a whole lot of resources in order to keep Sioux Falls where we want to live and want to grow. One thing I remember driving home, probably about 12 years ago, we had a call out in Garrettson, and it didn't end the way we wanted it. But I remember driving through town home and thinking, there are so many people asleep in their bed at night that don't understand what's going on in our community and what's truly out there. And I remember going home, and my son was 2 or 3 in his crib at the time, looking and thinking, I don't understand how people can do this type of stuff to their children. But it's because of the things that are affecting them in their lives that they need help with, they can't deal with, the resources aren't out there, and it's going to take all of us to help those people that can't help themselves. So with that. With that, the sheriff going to take some questions.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe this is totally unfair, but if you had a magic wand and you could wave the wand and get rid of one but not both of the problem. Illegal drugs or legal drugs. You talk about 21 deaths by illegal drugs in a given year. I'm wondering how many people are dying of cirrhosis of the liver and how many people are dying from lung cancer. We don't even count those people because it's a legal drug. And I would guess that most of the people who are involved in domestic abuse, it's good old liquor that's probably at the foundation of it. So if you had a magic wand and you could get rid of one, not both, would it be legal drugs or would it be illegal drugs?
Well, just one comment I would have is the sheriff talked about the 24/7 program, and we have that in place, and what happens is they come in the morning and they come in the evening and test, and they PDT, and it may not keep someone from being sober all day because they may drink less, but we are seeing it help in the community as far as the domestic violence and things that you're talking about. I understand that that's a very big problem here in the community, but we are seeing such serious crimes coming out of the illicit drugs that I think I would have to say that.
And that is kind of an interesting question and a difficult one to answer. But I also understand what the reality is. The reality is we tried prohibition, nation tried prohibition, it didn't work. It's not going to work now. So, granted, but the one difference between, and I'll use alcohol as an example, is alcohol you can use in moderation. heroin and methamphetamine, you don't have that option. You only abuse that drug. I will tell you a friend of mine who got addicted to methamphetamine. His sister came over to his house, and he had socks over every door in his house, inside. He had put socks on, and he'd taken the electrical outlets and plugged them with t-shirts. And she said, Larry, so I tipped you off, his name's Larry. He lives in town. So she said, Larry, why do you have socks on your door and t-shirts in your electrical outlets? He says, because the police have cameras in those, and they're watching what I do. Larry called me and said, I saw your detective, the female detective. She was pushing a cart behind me at the grocery store. And she went down every aisle I went. She watched what car I got into. You're going to have to teach him to be better than that, because I knew she was a detective all along. Well, she was no detective. I don't have anybody following Larry, but he's paranoid. His sister went outside with her husband and said, come in here. He looked at it and he talked. And they said, Larry, run out the car and get something way up. You know, so he went out and they started talking about him. How are we going to help Larry? We got to help him. He came back in and lit into him because he bugged his own home. He had a receiver and he was out listening to him talk. That's what meth does to your mind. Well, these people, that lasts for months after you've used it. So they carry guns, they're driving cars, they're doing road rage, they're operating machinery in our factories, and they are carrying and not afraid to use guns. The police scanner in Sioux Falls, you hear shots fired. Police get there and they find shell casings in the street and no one's there. It's because somebody was trying to buy some meth. The dealer had a gun. Now the buyers have guns. They shoot at each other. They're not very good shots, apparently, but once in a while they hit. But that's what we're starting to see. So for me, it's a little easier than when I first heard the question. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm an employer in town, and I just had the recent unfortunate circumstance of watching one of my young employees reveal an opioid addiction. And it happened at work, and I think that was the event that put him in treatment. And he's coming back on Monday, and we are very thankful that he is. And I know it's a very, very hard road for him to hoe. What would you suggest as an employer I should do to assist him?
Well, she's asking about an employee who has an opioid addiction coming out of treatment. I'm going to give you some unfortunate facts. This year, for every 100 people that are addicted to heroin or other opioids, out of 100, 25 of them are going to seek treatment. Okay? Now, the 25 that are going to seek treatment, most because the court did it themselves, or they decided, a family member saw them in crisis and took them to get treatment. Out of 25 people that go into treatment, 5 of them are going to be successful after a year. It's really hard, about 20% success ratio. I will say as an employer, anything you can to make sure that they don't run with the same people that they ran with before. The trouble with treatment among heroin users is this, and meth users. Their friends didn't go to treatment. And if they go back into that same environment, or what put them in it before, it's on the street, they can get it again, and it'll happen again. And they will fall harder than they fell the first time. Ellen.
Besides voting for her in district court. Thank you. Okay. Where would I go if I was looking for any of this in Sioux Falls today, and you wouldn't know that?
You wouldn't.
And you would not know. Where can you buy drugs? Where can you buy drugs that you don't know about? Do you know about all of the things you know?
Well, Melanie's question is where could you buy drugs? And quite frankly, there's such a prevalence of it available. All you have to do is ask around, and you're going to be able to get it. It's not a specific physical location. We do teach people through educational efforts with the community that, hey, here's what to watch for. Somebody moves into a neighborhood, all of a sudden it's very short-term traffic, cars pulling up, they leave, cars meeting in a parking lot, back and forth, short term, they meet, they leave, coming and going, you know, we encourage neighborhood watches, you know, when that starts happening, I love neighborhood watches because they'll call and say, well, we suspect this is happening. I'll say, put up a neighborhood watch and invite them to the meeting and tell them you're gonna take license plates of anybody that comes to houses and report them to the police. Pretty soon, there's a for rent sign in front of that place because they're gonna get out of that neighborhood. But the reality is, it's in our community, it's easy to get, and it's easy to get for even somebody in high school, and available to some in middle school. That's the scary part. Can I take one question that I did point to her? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's okay. So I'd like to play off the first question a little bit, and go out from there. First of all, though, I want to say, you mentioned optimism. I don't think I've ever been more optimistic before hearing you speak today about the possibilities we have. So I'm so grateful to you as the county for taking the lead in that. I'm amazed, I'm thrilled. You talked about there being purse strings on everything. And you also talked about you felt that we were being taxed enough, so taxes shouldn't really come into play because we have other stakeholders who are willing to buy in. You know, even including schools, I don't know if you mentioned that too, but I mean, there's so many places where this can come into, both with mental health issues and all of these, as far as dealing with high utilizers especially. There was a bill that came up in the state this year about adding a 5-cent tax to drinks at bars that would have then been funneled to the county, who seem to be bearing the brunt of the costs of particularly alcohol-related crimes. That did not pass for reasons that didn't seem like real reasons to me, like you're going to drive someone over the border for 5 cents a drink to go drink somewhere else. So in addition to that, talking about also illegal and legal drugs, do you think that possibly legalizing marijuana for recreational use, and I'm not saying that this is something I think should happen necessarily, carefully, with thoughtfulness, and we tax that, South Dakota doesn't tax enough to cover some of the things we have to deal with, that we have to go to private partnerships for things. Do you think that that would have the same sort of effect that if you went the opposite way and said alcohol is now illegal, would we start seeing far more alcohol problems that way? And might we be able to alleviate some of the stress, at least for the marijuana aspect, which is not anything like heroin or methamphetamine? So, long question, sorry.
Long question, I'll try to be brief because I know that you know, I know the sign is here. So, I'm going to use Colorado. I'm not a proponent, I will tell you, I'm not a proponent of legalizing recreational marijuana. I will use Colorado as an example, and that is the fact that the tax, well, first of all, about 70% of the marijuana that is being sold in recreational marijuana states is black market marijuana. It's not going through the tax system. So the black market is alive and well in those states. The second thing is this big tax windfall that Colorado is getting from marijuana. It funds 1/2 of 1% of Colorado's budget. For me, the risks far outweigh the reward. 1/2 of 1% of Colorado's budget is funded by the marijuana tax. But marijuana has the highest rate of youth use of marijuana, just flat #1 in the nation. Their marijuana-related traffic deaths saw a 48% increase in 3 years. The emergency room admissions for overdose were 49% increase in 2 years. And this is one I can easily account for, and that's there's 424 marijuana dispensaries in Colorado and only 300 Starbucks. Well, that's,
Yeah.
Our speakers will be able to hang around a little bit if you want to talk to them. Maybe our county commissioners will be here for a little while too, so you can see them. Just to clarify, McGovern Day, we will find out this week what the rates are and let you know. I would say don't buy your tickets until we get back to you. We'll let you know either next Friday or during the week. But if there is a senior discount, we'll help subsidize that too, so they're a little cheaper. Okay, thank you all for coming. Happy Easter.